We're going to begin talking about the causes of the American Revolution. We have talked some about a couple of these reasons, but I want you to go ahead and take your notes on all of this inside your notebooks on the next open page. It should be the page after what we glued in yesterday. Let's begin. The first cause of the American Revolution is the French and Indian War, sometimes called the 7 Years' War. And we know that the English soldiers and the colonists fought against the French and Native Americans, and we know that the English and the 13 colonies won that battle. The French lose a lot of land in the New World, and that's devastating for them. They lose that foothold. And with the victory, there comes a consequence. Because of the debt that England incurs or accumulates because of this war, the colonies are taxed heavily by the king. And this angers the colonists quite substantially. They don't like that they are being taxed, and they alone are being taxed by the king to pay back this debt. The next cause of the American Revolution is the Proclamation of 1763. We know that the king issued a statement saying that the colonists cannot move past the Appalachian Mountains. And he did this to protect the colonists from Indian attacks. He had, that's what he said. Whether or not that's actually true is another case. The colonists see this not as protection, not as something that is valuable and worth something, but they see it as the king is trying to control them like a mean parent would. The next cause of the American Revolution are unreasonable taxes. Unreasonable taxes. The colonists are forced to pay taxes through the following things. The things called the Stamp Act, the Sugar Act, the Townshend Act, and the Tea Act. And because the colonists are forced to pay these taxes, they do what most people would probably do in that situation. When you are forced to do something else, you begin to rebel. And they rebelled by ways called civil disobedience. Things like boycotting and rioting. Harsher civil disobedience such as torturing tax collectors, not just like the way your little brother or sister tortures you by annoying you. This was actually bringing physical harm to the tax collectors. And the best way of civil disobedience is by the Boston Tea Party. This is where a group of colonists band together and they sneak onto several British ships and dump over several hundred cases of tea, which amounted to quite a lot of money for the British that they just lost. And so the Boston Tea Party is a great example of the civil disobedience because of how the colonists were treated and were forced to pay taxes. The next cause of the American Revolution is mercantilism. Mercantilism seems like a good idea, but the actuality of it is not very good. England gains power and wealth from its colonies. Like any head or big country that has different colonies in other places, they gain power and wealth from that. The more land and more resources you have, the more money you acquire. And they do that by collecting raw materials from them and selling manufactured goods to these colonies. This makes the colonies mad because they can only buy English goods and they can only sell their things to England. They are restricted from trading with any other countries, kind of like a mean parent again. These restrictions are getting to be kind of outrageous. And so mercantilism seems like a good idea, but the actuality is no good because they can only buy and sell with England. Our next cause of the American Revolution is a lack of representation in Parliament. The colonies have set up their own self-governing systems. They have been taking care of themselves, but the problem with that is England ignores those forms of government. They say it's like they don't exist. And so Parliament ends up creating laws for the colonies because they think these laws will be the best for the colonies. But the problem is they create these laws without any colonial citizens being present to speak for the colonies, on behalf of the colonies. And so that's a problem. There becomes a chant and a slogan and a motto in the colonies that says no taxation without representation, because representation in Parliament is very important for the colonies. The next cause of the American Revolution is the Intolerable Acts. These are established as a result and a response to the Boston Tea Party, which was an act of civil disobedience on the colonists' side. The Intolerable Acts is kind of the response, the effect to the effect of the Boston Tea Party. And so, in essence, the King of England is like the mean parent, and he's grounding Boston. He's saying, you go to your room, Boston. You go to bed without supper. Kind of one of those things. And he's grounding them for what they did in the Boston Tea Party. The way he grounds them and the way he punishes them is he closes Boston Harbor. And then the colonists had to house the troops. They had to quarter the soldiers. They had to give up their houses and their things for the soldiers to be a part of. And the people that were accused of crimes, the people who got in trouble with the law, were sent to England for trial. Many times they never returned to the New World because of the unfair trials in England. They were usually put in prison for life, and sometimes they were executed for things that were not worth execution, if that makes sense. It's kind of stealing a bubble gum and being executed for that. So it's kind of that unfair of a trial, and that's not an actual example. That's just something I came up with to just restate how unfair those trials actually were. The colonists' homes were searched without reason or warrants, and if you have been paying attention, last time when we talked about Constitution Week, and we talked about grievances in the Declaration of Independence, or problems that the colonists had with the King of England. These sound familiar, and these are also ways they were addressed in the Constitution. And so they had a problem with quartering soldiers, and so they wrote the Third Amendment, the Third Bill of Rights, that said you can't quarter soldiers. They had unfair trials, and so they had trial by jury, which is, I think, number 7. And then they had colonists searching homes and things without warrants, and I think that's number 4 of the Bill of Rights. And so these are all ways that they address them. And the big thing is that these Intolerable Acts was finally the breaking point for the colonies. It's the straw that broke the camel's back here. This is really what led them to declare their independence now. Those are your causes of the American Revolution. I hope that you have taken good notes in your notebook because these will be very important on your test.